Hey, it's Captain Mike, Waterways in Paradise, powered and anchored by Keller Williams Realty. You're with me today. We are going to discover the waterways of Marco Island. We're going to take a deeper dive into things that you don't normally find in the MLS, things that help to make up comps that people don't always take into consideration, water direct, water indirect, and how we come up with the value. Buyers, especially if you're new to Marco Island, there's over 100 miles of waterway there. Sellers, there's things that we do when we list your property that really help them to stand out. And we're going to take a deep dive into that. And before we go too much farther, I want you to meet my crew. Okay, obviously I've got my lovely wife Tamara, who is my heart and soul. We own Waterways in Paradise, and we are so blessed to have a great crew. We have Shelly, we have Brian, and we have Judy. And of course, we have Samson. Sammy is our Siberian Husky who takes care of all our four-legged friends out there. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to give you a lot of information today. I just want you to kind of listen, sit back. At the end of the presentation, you can email me. We'll send you the presentation because there's a lot of facts and figures in here that is going to help you make the right decision moving forward. Okay? Again, today we're going to be discovering the waterways of Marco Island. I already told you we're going to talk about things that the buyers and the sellers need to know. But before I do that, like anything, I got to have a disclosure, and I want to read this to you so that we get this taken care of. Depths of waterways in Marco Island is constantly changing based on storms, tides, and other naturally occurring events. A boat's draft can also vary based on the number of passengers, cargo on board, and the amount of fuel in the tanks. Bridge clearance and tide information is based on published data from the City of Marco Island website. Based on this, Waterways in Paradise provides the following data for information only and is not responsible and liable for any damages resulting from actions taken based on this data. Okay, so we took care of that, but now we're going to get into our objectives of what we're really going to, go over. We're going to go over so you understand what the difference is between direct and water indirect access. We're going to talk about boat clearances and boat heights. We're going to discuss the different types of lots on Marco Island, because that's a big deal too. We're going to understand speed zones and travel time, that's out to open water. We're going to break it down into 4 quadrants on Marco Island to hopefully make this easier for you to understand. Go over briefly sea walls and docks, and then explore some, resources for boaters. All right. And then from there, we are going to, tell you a little bit more about Marco Island. It's the largest, and northernmost of the 10,000 islands. It's about 4 by 6 miles, depending on where you measure it from. I already told you, we got over 100 miles of waterways. And of course, it's just a great place to live, whether you're spending a little time there, you want to, be a full-time resident or something like that. I have been a full-time resident here in Southwest Florida for over 18 years. So what I'm sharing with you is what my wife Tammy and I had to learn, off the cuff. And not that we didn't have good, our realtors didn't try to give us advice. If I would have known more about this, I would have probably made a different decision right from the get-go on what properties we bought and everything like that. So again, direct access. It's real simple. No bridges to open water. Indirect access. 1 or more bridges to open water. You got to check the bridge height for your bridge clearance, for your boat clearance. So we're going to go over that. And I think something that is never brought up until it's too late, and again, if you're really a big boater, it's become something is purchasing waterfront property doesn't guarantee you'll be able to get your boat off the lift at every tide. It's not that you can't get it off, but you might not get it off at a low tide or at what they call a negative tide. And again, we can go into more detail of that later on at the end in another program. So what we did is we just basically took Marco Island and, put it into 4 quadrants. And what you see inside the red area of the map is all the waterfront property that is water indirect, meaning that you have to go under 1 or more bridges. And that's a lot of area. And to make this helpful, okay, and we're going to give you the link to the website, okay, we gave you the Marco Island right in the website, bridge clearance height and what that means, okay? And, the ones highlighted in yellow is the bridges that obviously the boats go under. And, this is something that will correlate with the quadrants as we go through. That's why you want to email me to get all this information so that it's easy for you to follow along later on. Along with that, the city website has some more information about Marco Island and the area and boating information, but, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Probably one of the first things you need to understand is, okay, you got water indirect, got water direct properties, and you're gonna look at the properties, and one of the first questions, we're gonna wanna know is, what type of boater you're gonna be, and depending on that, it's gonna really determine if we can even look at water indirect property, because of the bridge clearance and the bridge height and things like that. I can tell you this, you can have a lot of fun on a boat, like this one right here. This is actually my boat. It's actually part of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and we were getting ready to go out on a patrol, and that just happened to be a picture of my boat that I have and just for this webinar. But what I want you to understand is that a lot of vessels up to 30 foot long can, most cases, get under water indirect, home. So if you purchase a boat and it's that size, you have a good chance that you can still be water indirect. And in one of the first quadrants, we'll even show you where you can have a larger boat, probably the same size as a lot of the people that are in water direct. I also, before I go any farther, I don't want you to concentrate all about, oh my God, I'm this far from open water. What I want you to think about, and one of the questions we ask you, early on, is tell us a little bit about what you expect your lifestyle to be, because depending on what part of Marco Island you're interested in being in, there's a lot of other amenities to think about. Is it important to be close to the beach? Is it important to be close to the shoppings? Is it close to be, the churches, the dog parks? Sammy's going to tell you got to be close to the dog parks. I mean, that's a big deal, and Marco Island has a great dog park. So let's jump back here to boat clearance. So here's my boat, all right? So when the boat's in the water, you got your water line. That's the lower mark, okay? And then, of course, you got your T-top, and then whatever, you got flags or radar or your fishing rods or anything like that. You want to take your fishing rods down to go under the bridge. I can tell you that if you're on this upper area. But that's going to give you your bridge height. I mean, your height of your boat. What's a boat like this average height? Okay, 8'6", 8'4", something like that. So again, these are all things that your manufacturer, or you get all this information from your from wherever you purchase your boat, and we're happy to go along with it. But that's actually when you float under a bridge what it looks like. Now the next thing I want to go over with you, and this just happens to be one of the bridges on Marco Island, and it actually happens to be the highest bridge. In other words, the bridge that has the most vertical clearance to take a boat under. This bridge here allows you to have a larger vessel go underneath it. It's according to the Marco Island chart that they put out, it's bridge 13A and B. And you'll notice we have it circled on the right-hand side. There's like a ruler there. And, that is telling you right now, if you went under that bridge, that as long as your boat, was under 13 feet, you could clear it and get under there to get out to open water. So right now it's got a clearance about 13.2. So that's just the way you can read it. Every one of these bridges we're going to go over has one of those clearances. We can dive a little deeper into that later on. And then of course, when we're out on the river, okay, maybe I should stop and just say that, like I told you earlier, Marco Island's like a 4 by 6 mile island, give or take. And to navigate around Marco Island by boat with slow speed, and different things like that, it's about 30 miles, depending which way you go, depending on the size of your boat, which can take anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours to, go completely around Marco Island, because you also have to go around Goodland. And this just happens to be a picture of the Goodland Bridge. There's two ways to get onto Marco Island. Obviously, the Judge Jolly Bridge, which is the standard one coming onto Marco Island, and then the Goodland Bridge. But you'll see again that there's height there as far as, ruler there that, lets you know what your clearance is. So if you're in a sailboat with a mast or something like that, you want to realize that, hey, this is, what my water depth is at this time. When this was taken, you got a clearance of about 55 feet. So, just keep those kind of things in mind. moving forward as we go through this. Now, one other thing before we dive totally into the waterways, which I think is important for, people to understand, is that a traditional lot, the waterfront lot on Marco Island, is 80 by 110, meaning 80 feet along the water. A water direct lot is 100 by 110, meaning 100 feet on the water. Estate lots, we have larger lots, especially most of them are found on the southern end of Marco Island. They're like 125 feet, by 175, meaning you got about 125 feet on the water. And then we have tip lots, which you'll find at the end of every cul-de-sac, which can have, over 175 feet of waterfront, on there, and which gives you a, much wide open view. And here in Florida, we probably spend more time, in the back of our homes, living on our lanais and our pools and, looking out the back than we do in the front. So, that we have those called tip lots. And then we have corner lots is when you turn onto a street, you've got a larger lot there where you can put a bigger, nice size home, big garage, big, driveway and things, but you might not have as much water frontage there. It could be 40 or 50 feet because you're, in a corner. And then we also have called key lots, which are normally next to a tip lot, which can, have pretty nice water frontage and also, but a little narrower in the middle, which is not really a big deal. But the one thing I want to caution you on when you're looking at property on Marco Island, whether you're looking at an older home that in time you might tear down and build your paradise home on, or you're just buying a home in general or you're getting ready to build, is talk to your builder. Make sure that the home that you're interested in will fit on the footprint of that lot. That's your first thing. And then also you want to keep in mind, especially if you're an avid boater, you really know what you want. Look, I want to go offshore. I've got, this size vessel and I just want to be able to get offshore as quickly as we want. Well, obviously that narrows things down too, but with that comes a higher price tag. And, again, it's about the experience and enjoying the island that, is the most important thing. And we can take a deeper dive, one-on-one with one of my team members to, go over all that with you. But that gives you the basic understanding of the types of lots we have. Now, we're going to talk next about speed, time, and distance. What do we mean? Well, we mean the time to open water from the bridges on Marco Island. And before I go any farther on this, I think this is like you're going to read in the MLS from all the different realtors writing things, which goes out to the other websites, quick access, this far out to open water, all these types of things. In most cases, they're being generous. I'm going to tell you really kind of how long it is to really get out to open water, but I don't want to, again, to make that such a big deal. All right, enjoy the moment, enjoy the experience, and think about what works and checks off the most boxes in the property, the home that you're looking for. Okay, that's what I want you to pay attention to. So what is idle speed, especially for a non-boater? It's basically no wake. It means that, when you're going through there, you should just, basically just enough to keep the boat steering, don't cause any distractions. Slow speed, minimum wake is required, okay, until you get out to open water. Now, okay, I gave you a definition, but I want you to say, what does that really mean again? Let me just tell you this. And again, this is why I put it up there for you. Idle speed is anywhere between 3 to 5 miles an hour. And we're not using knots, we're using it so it's like driving a car so everybody can understand. That's where you can go out to open water from your home, and basically not cause any disturbance. Slow speed, where you can move along a little faster is minimum weight. Like when you get to slow speed in the river, heading out to Capri Pass or heading in from Caxambas Pass or something like that. Now, what we did though is this is going to vary on your boat and all those other things. So just keep that in mind as we move forward, in this conversation. Now, I put a little chart together for you so that as we go through these different quadrants on Marco Island, this is going to make sense. And again, like I said, you can email me this, we'll give you the whole breakdown. But I'm going to make it simple math for this right now. If you're averaging 6 miles an hour to open water, and I'm going to caution you, that could be a little fast if you're back in the canals, especially, on your vessel, but I'm just using that. If you got to go 1 mile, that's basically going to take you 10 minutes to get to open water. Okay, so that's just easier point to use. So if you're 2 miles to open water, it's obviously going to be 20 minutes. And if you're 3 miles, it's going to be 30 minutes to open water. Now, I don't want to upset anybody, and I'm just kind of helping you understand this. Probably the average boater on Marco Island, is probably at least going 20 minutes, somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes to really get to open water where they can really, just get up on plane and go. But it's not a big deal, guys. Okay, we can get you out quicker, and we'll show you where you can get out quicker. But I'm just letting you know up front. All right. So let's just break this down. Let's break the island down into 4 sections. And again, we're going to give you all the data with each section. All right. So the first, we broke it down into quadrants. Quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. Obviously, quadrants 1 and 2 are on the north end of Marco Island, and 3 and 4 are on the south end of Marco Island. All right, so let's just keep on going and dive into this. All right, quadrant 1. Okay, we have 4 bridges that we have showing in the video right now. And what we also did, and you can look into this a little bit more, we highlighted some of the amenities in the area, because maybe one of you guys or both of you are big boaters, but there also might be other important things that you're interested in, or you have friends that live in a certain part of the island or whatever. So we're just showing you some of the amenities that are close by. Now, earlier in the video, you'll see here Bridge 13. Okay, that's the one I highlighted, which was the tallest bridge, as far as going under from bridge clearance, on Marco Island. That's right at what they call the Esplanade and different things like that. That has got the highest vertical distance. But behind that, you got to keep in mind, all that is water indirect. So if you like the home in the north end and you still have a larger vessel, okay, and you have a better chance of a bridge clearance getting under there. And then, of course, you'll see 7, 8, and 10. Now, if you like waterfront property back in the area where Bridge 7 is, behind it, that's water indirect. But to get out to open water, you're going to go under, a couple more bridges to get out. In this case, you could go under 3 bridges to get out to open water. The other 3 bridges, around the island are pretty much all in the same average, which you can refer to the Marco Island website slide as far as vertical height goes on the bridges. But this is how we break it down. All right. And then to take it one step farther to show you what that means is we broke it down to show you how far it is from each one of those bridges. Again, this doesn't include behind you, to open water, but this gives you an idea. For example, Bridge 13, the one we started out, where the Esplanade is, out to Marco River. From there, it's 2.4 miles out to open water to get into the Gulf of America, and where you can go up on plane. So again, go back to that speed chart that I set up with you. That's going to really mean that you can get out to open water from that bridge in about 24 minutes, okay, 25 minutes. Now, that's just an average. Same thing, all the other bridges are right there. If we go to Bridge 7, which is the farthest one back in, okay, that's 2.8 miles. So that's actually, going to be closer to 30 minutes till you get out to open water. But as we're going through all these different quadrants, keep in mind is something else. When you live in Southwest Florida, exercise, staying healthy is always important. So, we can walk on the beach, we can run on the beach, we can, bike on the bike paths, we can go to Mackle Park, we can go to a lot of places, but, a lot of things that, we also develop for our customers is, what about the kayaks and canoes? I mean, look at all these waterways. I mean, you can just drop your kayak or canoe in, or your paddleboard right from your property, and you get a great workout, and never go out in open water and, have have all the amenities going for you right there. So just something else to keep in mind. All right, you can read the distance out to open water from the rest of those areas. And then what we did is we kind of put it in chart format, okay, in quadrant one. And we're going to do the same thing in the other quadrants after this. Is you can see that, if you were on a GPS, that this is what it would look like headed out to open water. Now, there's always going to be more water closer to the sea walls or docks than farther away. And you can see in Collier Bay on that first one that obviously, get a little skinny there. You don't want to be going over there, especially in a lower tide. But this is how it's going to be set up for every quadrant. That's why you're going to definitely want to, email us for more information so we can keep this broken down for you and see what's going on. Now, let's go to quadrant number 2. All right, quadrant number 2 only has 2 bridges. All right, bridge number 14 is right there, and that's really, pretty close to open water in the Marco River. Okay, and then bridge number 5, is kind of what we call the river area there. Now, again, you can see the amenities that are nearby, going out through there. I will tell you right now that, when you go out into the Marco River, okay, depending if you're going north towards Capri Pass, you're going to be able to go up on plane for a short period of time. When I say plane, go up to speed. You can't, and then you're going to have to come down to go through slow speed to get out to open water to Capri Pass. If you're going to head more south and head down the river, like I told you earlier, we have 2 bridges to go, getting onto Marco Island. Those Judge Jolly Bridge to the Goodland Bridge is about 5 miles. So again, that speed, time, and distance, if we use that same type of chart, you can, speeds have to stay under safely if it's safe conditions, 30 miles an hour, but normally people are running somewhere between 20 and 30 miles an hour, but you can find out that's 10, 15 minutes down there between the 2 bridges. So again, I just wanted to let you know that. And when we broke that down for you, and you can see that bridge number 5, is only basically, a mile to, out to open water. And excuse me, and bridge number 14 is a little over half a mile to open water. Okay. So again, it's all about location, what interests you, what amenities are nearby. In this area, you got some restaurants nearby, you've got the marinas nearby, so you have a lot of options there, which we can go over in more detail, in a further conversation later on when you call our team. And once again, we broke it down into quadrants, showing you on a GPS how long it would take to get out to open water. Now, all right, I don't want anybody calling in or writing in, well, there's more than one way to get to open water. Yes, there is, especially, from the riverside there. Yes, there is. But for this webinar, we made it simple to show one way. We're happy, to, show you the other ways you can get it to open water depending on the tides and depending on your vessel size. And maybe I forgot to mention this earlier, and I apologize, but we also, besides myself being a certified captain, we have, Brian and Judy are also certified captains, and Shelly, our whole team is very well versed on, water and has boating experience and different things like that. So we are aware of these things. And again, so that pretty much is the same thing, but I'm showing you how to get through. But even from the bridges there back through the golf courses, again, I want you to keep in mind in all these areas that you probably have another mile, mile and a half to get to open, get to the bridge to get to open water. So again, your speed to open water is going to still be between 20 and 30 minutes to get out to open water. Now, quadrant 3, we jump down to the south end of Marco Island, where you see Roberts Bay at number 4 and everything. That is showing a large section of the estate area. Beautiful larger homes there down in that area. Behind that, obviously, is water indirect, which is probably up to a mile or so. And then, of course, if you're heading west a little bit more before Bridge 11, you got to go under 2 bridges to get out to open water. Bridge number 2 down there you see is just another way to get out to Caxambas Bay. We call it going through the picket fence, especially it's a kind of a shortcut if you wanted to head, over to Goodland, and not go out directly out into the Gulf of America through Caxambas Pass. But again, you can see the areas that are available down there, so moving forward. So again, in quadrant 3, you know, you're going to see that from, the bridge to open water for the picket fence, you still got to go almost 2 miles till you can go up on Plain. I think the most important thing here is from, bridge, number 4, top of Roberts Bay, you've got about 2 miles to open water. And that is absolutely a beautiful cruise out. I don't know, all these areas are beautiful. You can take a sundown cruise, on all these areas and really, have a nice time and never hit open water, which is beautiful to enjoy the waterfront properties here on Marco Island. And again, from Bridge 11, we got about 2.2 miles. So when we take that, you can definitely see how far it is to open water. Again, we're probably averaging 20, 30 minutes from most places to get out to open water. All right? And we did the same thing for quadrant 3. We put it into a chart type process so you can see how to get out through. Now again, there's more than one way to get out to open water, but we're keeping it simple right now. So we'll show you. Also, I probably didn't mention this, but again, we do give waterfront property tours, and when you work with our team, okay, we will put you on our boat. We will actually take you to the waterfront property that you're really interested in once you've narrowed things down, and actually show you how easy it is to navigate to open water, and get into more detail, show you other things about it along the way. And even if we have a listing on Marco Island, which we do, we have listings on Marco Island, if a buyer's agent brings a family and they write a contract or they really are interested in something, we even help our buyers agents out and the buyers, because we want everybody to have a great experience. We'll put them on our boat and even show them how easy it is to navigate out to open water and help answer all those questions for them too. So if I didn't mention that earlier, I just want to bring that up now. And the last quadrant that we need to review is on the south end, closest to the beach area, called quadrant 4. Okay, and again, this is the area that is, close to the beach, the hotels, the restaurants, and everything like that. Again, this lower end is part of the estate section also. And, but behind it is a very popular area, water indirect area. You got Landmark Waterway. But from Bridge 3 to back towards which really is the San Marco Road, you could easily have another mile, to get out till you get to the bridge. So once again, 20, 30 minutes is really par. But once again, let's not make that a do-all, end-all and make it such a big deal. Enjoy the experience. Think about the other amenities that are important to you. And let's think about your budget. That's also a big thing, because it's what you're looking for and what you need. And again, we did the same thing for you. We broke it down so that when you're at that bridge, to get to open water, okay, it's about 1.33 miles, okay, out. And what's a mile? Okay, so about 13 minutes, 13, 15 minutes from there to get out to open water. You'll actually go right past the Caxambas Marina, and also at that end, which I'll bring it up now, is I'm a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla 9-5. We'll talk a little bit about this a little later on. Again, we'll bring it up, but that is where our station is. We do teach people how to navigate around Marco Island and some other classes. So I've taught you through this a little bit more of an education on how to get to open water. But if you come to one of our classes that myself and the other instructors teach, we will teach you how to navigate around Marco Island, because I will tell you on the south end, depending on the tides, the size of your vessel, and where you really want to go, there's multiple ways to do it. Not to mention that, Marco Island's got a beautiful beach, but if you're a boater, we'll get into and show you all the beaches that you can also pull your boat up to and enjoy an afternoon, out there, on the water, or evening, or a sunset cruise. A lot of people, when they come down, have heard of Cape Romano. The domes are no longer there, but it's still a popular place to go, and you can read about the history on that also. So again, once again, we're just showing you how easy it is to navigate out through. And there is other ways to do it. There's other ways from the different estate sections to get out to open water, but for the sake of this, webinar, we're keeping it, simple. Now, a brief conversation on seawalls, docks, and lifts. Okay, we're realtors, okay? And we can, when it comes to evaluating a seawall, evaluating a dock, a lift, or anything like that, we're going to go to the pros. We're going to set you up with one of the, certified dock companies that handle that to tell you what they think the life expectancy of the seawall is, or when do you think it needs to be replaced. Same with the building of the dock and everything like that. But, newer to seawalls are definitely, taller, which we'll show you an example of that. And I think one thing we've noticed over our years of experience is there's a lot of sellers that just love to live on the water. Maybe they sold their boat, but they just love their house, they love their location. Maybe they're not as active, but they need to maintain their dock and their lifts, especially their lifts, and take a good look at their seawall. Don't forget about those things, because when it comes time to put it on the market, that plays a big factor. And we sometimes don't see that taken into consideration. And something else, it goes a little bit beyond the scope of this webinar, especially if you find a house you really like, or you love the house and maybe you got to reconfigure the dock and everything. I mean, these dock builders have got super creative on, taking care of all your toys, explaining the setbacks needed, to fit the vessels that you want and all the other toys that you need. And they've also created these, to add leisure space to your screened inland eye or your pool area. So that if, sunbathing, and if sun's not directly where you want it, hey, I guarantee you'll get sun down on the dock and go from there. And again, obviously, we always recommend, any buyer that's buying property to, definitely you want to get the seawall, the dock, and the lift inspected, once you're under contract. Sometimes it's good to get an evaluation even before you, go under contract, depending on, what the condition of the seawall appears to be, just looking at it visually. So that's, pretty much handles that. And then just wanted to show you a picture, quick, easy education. If it's a newer seawall or an older seawall, obviously, when it's a newer seawall, it's going to be higher than a lower seawall. That doesn't mean that the older seawall isn't still in good shape or stable, or has a lot of life left to it. But again, let's turn to the pros for that. Let's get their opinion on that, and we can go from there. But if you put a new seawall in, you're definitely gonna, it's gonna definitely be raised up. And again, we can go into more detail on that with the seawall people. Now, we also included on this, some links as for resources. Obviously, we got our website. The Coast Guard Auxiliary's on there because, they teach a lot of great classes. My wife Tam and I came down here 18 years ago, and one of the first things I did after, purchasing real estate is I went to the Coast Guard Auxiliary classes, the boater safety courses, how to navigate. I wasn't a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary yet, but I'll tell you what, the amount of knowledge you get from these classes, especially if you're new to boating, is amazing. Also, I want you to know that they give free vessel exams. So if you're a new boater, or you just, even been a boater for a long period of time, they give free vessel exams, keep you safe on the water, make sure everything's up to stuff. And hey, they're not going to ding you or tell you if there's something, they're going to help you make sure you're prepared. So that website is there. Marco Island Fishing Club's been around a long time. Great fishing club on Marco Island. I've been a member myself for quite a long period of time. And, they have a lot of fishing events. It's always good to, I recommend you, go to one of their, monthly meetings and, learn more about them, especially when to learn. And then one of my other favorite, is Salt Strong. Salt Strong's an online fishing club that he's just, came out. They're web-based. They have local chapters. Matter of fact, I'm proud to say that Waterways in Paradise sponsors a local chapter here in Marco Island called Marco Island 10,000 K Islands. and meet the third Tuesday of every month. We can send you more information on that. But, you know, what Saltstrong does is really dives into teaching you how to fish, gives weekly reports, and is really a valuable, you know, to help you out. We put the Collier County Appraiser site there. It helps you out, gets you information. Of course, the Marco Island City website, you'll be able to go on there. They'll dive deeper into a lot of questions you might have, along with just, you know, that's where we got the information for this webinar already. I also, you know, did take the time to show you a page of classes from the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We highlighted it. You know, the one that you really want to take if you're new to Marco Island, you know, is the Boaters Local Knowledge Marco Island Area, BLK. That's going to teach you how to navigate completely around Marco Island. And like I said earlier, that's about 30 miles, depending which, you know, which route you choose to get around. The south end of Marco Island is probably the trickiest or the most challenging. And I think, you know, this is, you know, in itself is worth it. Plus, we also expand that and tell you how to get up to Naples, you know, without going out into the Gulf. So that's also available to you, you know, so look, you know, look that up. And final thoughts. This is just Captain Mike's own opinion. Okay. I hear this a lot. Now, I want to tell you, my team will listen to our buyers, you know, needs, what their wants are. And of course, we listen to our sellers. And if somebody tells me a snowbird says, I only want southern and western exposure, or, you know, that, okay, no problem. We will do that. But please don't make your realtor or your buyer's agent hold to that. Tell them your wants and needs. Tell them what's really important to you. Tell them you prefer that. But keep an open mind, because I think that people that just focus on that are making a mistake. We have a lot of sun in Marco Island and the surrounding waterfront communities, and you know, I just think that, you know, you should look at checking all the boxes first. I'll be honest with you, I live here year round. I'm a big fan of northern exposure, not because I don't want to, you know, relax in the sun. I get sun on my pool, I get sun on my screen inland eye, I get sun on my dock, because, you know, one of the main reasons is I'm a big boater. So when I come, you know, I want to take care of my boat, and I don't want the sun beating on my boat all the time. And also, when a hurricane comes, guess what? They come from the Gulf. So I want the front of my house to take the you know, the brunt of it. So it goes around the back, protect my screen inland eye, protect my pool area, protect my boats and docks and lifts and things like that. So, you know, that's another reason I like it. And another thing I hear sometimes is, you know, people are looking at waterfront property and they'll go around back and they'll say, well, that boat canopy's, you know, ruining my view. And I'm like, you know, politely I'll say, excuse me, but, you know, these boats cost just as much as the luxury cars do, in most cases more than your average luxury car does. So why wouldn't you want to protect them? And for example, on the next page, you know, this is just a, you know, picture of that's my boat again from behind my house, but, you know, northern exposure, middle of the day, you know, no sun, you know, nice and protected. And by the way, those boat canopies are amazing. I think they're fabulous. And for example, if a storm's coming, the frame is good for, I think, 125 miles per hour. So we're pretty good shape there. If the winds are going to get over 70 miles an hour, all you do is remove the canopy. All right, so it's not a big deal to remove that canopy. It comes off pretty quick. And then after the storm, all you do is call the company back, and then they'll send some guys out and put it back up. But it's worth it, in my opinion. So that's, you know, pretty much covers that. And final thoughts. All right, Tam and I are so blessed to have a great team. Our great team covers everything from the Gulf of America to golf courses and everything in between. And so if you know, whether you're looking to buy or sell, you know, again, in this PDF that you're going to email me for, it's going to give the bio on Shelley and Brian and Judy, and, you know, tell you, you know, more about them. The contact information for all of us is right there, you know, in this PDF. And let's not forget about Sammy. Sammy takes a lot of pride in taking care of the four-legged members of your family. So we know exactly, you know, where they're really super welcomed and where there's a weight limit and where maybe, maybe not be right for your family. But Sammy takes that. And don't let the Siberian Husky, I know you think of them for the cold, but Sammy loves the warmth. So he is very adapted to the warm weather and, loves being out there. So all you got to do, is, email me, all right? We'll send you we'll send you this whole webinar, which gives you all the details, because I know I covered a lot in a short period of time. And you'll get all this contact information. And also, when you do that, you'll be signing up for our monthly newsletter, because there is going to be more webinars on some of the other waterfront communities we have in the area. We're going to do some more podcasts and really help bring value to things that buyers and sellers need to know that aren't in the MLS. So from there, this is Captain Mike. But before we hang up, I know we have some questions. And let me see how many of them I can answer during this webinar. And if I can't get to all of them, feel free to contact us, after the webinar.
So Shelly actually has some questions, so we're going to bring her on and let her ask the questions directly to you.
All right, so we're going to bring on one of my team members, Shelly. So yeah, come on, Shelly.
Hello.
Hi, Shelly. What do we got? What kind of questions are we getting out there?
Well, we wanted to know what quadrant would be the best on Marco if I had a sailboat with a 50-foot mast.
Okay, that's okay. So if you have a sailboat, if I'm understanding that due to the mass, the kind of the best area to be would probably be in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 on the north end. Okay, that is where you're going to find, most of your bigger sailboats, okay, with the taller masts. And again, you can contact Shelly or one of the other team members afterwards, and we'll be glad to go over that in detail. What else you got for me, Shelly, right now?
We just asked if there was some references you made, but you put that on the slides, so we're good there.
Yep. Yes. So just email us and we'll get you all the information you need. I think the biggest thing you guys all want to do is email myself. Okay, you see my email out there, and I'm going to send you the PDF version, and you're going to get all our contacts, especially our team. Like I told you earlier, our team, we are just blessed, Tam and I, to have a great team, and we're all here to help, and we're all here to make you, help you find your piece of paradise. All right? So with that being said, anything else we got?
Just a few comments. Someone said, "This is incredible knowledge, Mike." Another said, "Awesome job, Mike." Chris says, "Love the commitment to your clients and your craft. Much appreciated, Mike." Chris says, "Great presentation, great information."
Well, Chris and the rest of the viewers out there, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Again, we just love what we do. So with this, it is Captain Mike. We are out.